How to make whole wheat baguettes at home. Today I'm going to show you how I make my whole wheat French baguettes. These are very easy to make. You start the dough on day 1 and finish up baking them on day 2. These crunchy, healthy baguettes won't stick around long. Let me show you how I make them. Here are the ingredients that you'll need. You're going to need some all-purpose flour. I have 350 grams, that's 2 1/4 cups. Some whole wheat flour, 350 grams and 2 1/4 cups. Active dry yeast, 15 grams or 3 teaspoons. Some table salt, 17 grams or 2 3/4 of a teaspoon. And some room temperature water. I have 450 milliliters or 1 3/4 cups. I just wanted to mention something about the equipment that I'm using, because I have some equipment that you might not have in your regular kitchen, but you don't necessarily need the stuff that I have, but I'll show you and I'll give you alternatives that you could use. This is a baguette pan. I'm going to show you. It's got 4 spots here. 1, 2, 3, 4, where I put the baguettes, and it's got an arc shape to it, so it keeps the shape of the baguette. Now, before I got these pans, I used to make my baguettes on a regular baking sheet, and I would kind of put a line of scrunched up foil in between to try to help the baguettes keep their shape. It wasn't perfect, but it worked, so you could use that. Now, I got these pans on Amazon. I don't remember how much they were, but I think I have a link to my Amazon store in the description, and you can check that out, but they're well worth it. Mine came in a set of 2, so I have 2 pans, but as I mentioned in my other baguette video, how to make home-baked French baguettes, I didn't know what I was doing when I first got these, and I thought that you were supposed to use 2 together. And the baguettes worked out very well, so that's what I do now. I use both together, even though I'm sure you're only supposed to use one at a time. I use both, so I just wanted to mention that. I also have what's called a couche. Okay, that's a French word, and it just is a linen cloth that I will be using to proof my baguettes on, okay? And that's kind of the same idea. We put a baguette here, and then we sort of make an accordion, put the next one here, make another accordion. And I also got this on Amazon. If you don't have a couche, then all you have to do is use a very clean cotton pillowcase. I've seen people use that too. Just make sure that it hasn't gone through the wash with bounce dryer sheets or, fabric softener, because whatever you wash your couche or your pillowcase with, you're going to taste it in your food. And I just wanted to let you know, couche is the French word for lie. Coucher means you're going to sleep, you're going to lie down. And a couche is also a French word for a diaper. So basically what we're going to be doing is wrapping up the baguette dough and let it sleep for 20 minutes or so. So that's an interesting little tidbit for you. And I wanted to show you how sometimes we can get carried away. We have to score our baguettes, and scoring it means basically slitting the dough, right? So I got all fancy schmancy and I went out and I bought this bread scorer. All it is this handle, and look, razor blades, and you put the razor blade on this way or that way and you score your baguette that way, but it kept falling off. So I kind of wasted my money there, and I just wanted to show you, you don't have to get all this crazy fancy equipment. I did this, I regret this, but I'm just going to use a regular knife to score my baguettes. The knife has to be sharp, that's all. All right, we're on day 1. So the first thing we want to do is combine all of our dry ingredients into a large bowl. So let's combine all that. The flours. And the salt and the yeast as well. So I'm just going to whisk all of that together. This is a very easy baguette recipe. It's just a little time consuming, that's all. but so worth it. Just make a little well in the center. And I'm going to add my water. Let's mix all of that together until we get a sticky dough. We want to combine everything together, and I'm just using a spatula. I want a nice sticky dough. Usually at this point I put on my gloves and I just do it by hand because I find it to be a lot easier when you do it that way. Just combining it all to a sticky dough. We've combined pretty much all of the flour, and it's sticky, that's for sure. So I'm just going to dust the top with a little bit of flour, just so it doesn't stick to the cling film that I'm about to put on. So now I'm just going to cover that with my cling film, and I'm going to cover that tightly because I don't want any air to get in there while it's proofing. Okay, and we'll top it with a tea towel. And this is going to sit in a warm spot for the next 12 to 24 hours. So I will see you on day 2. Well, it's day 2, my friends, and we're going to take a look at our dough. I've had mine sitting out for approximately 20 hours, and it's more than doubled in size for sure. All right. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to flour my surface. I just have a little bit of that all-purpose flour, and I've got some handy because this is a very sticky dough, so I'll keep that handy. Better roll up my sleeves a little bit and pour the dough out, or pull it out, whatever you call it. Just get that dough onto your floured surface. There we go. So now basically I'm going to knead the dough for 10 minutes. And I'm going to try my best not to add any more flour. But if it gets too sticky, I'll just dust a little flour onto the dough or onto my hands. So away I go. I just wanted to show you what consistency you're looking for when you know that you've kneaded it enough, because sometimes you have to knead it for more than 10 minutes to get that consistency. Usually it's about 10 minutes. So if you take your hand and you push down on the bread dough and pull it up, you don't get any dough on your hand. And you can hear that kind of, it's sticky, but it doesn't stick to your hand. So you know that the dough is ready for the next rise. Now I'm going to put it back into the bowl. I've got a clean bowl here, but you can definitely use the same bowl. I'm just putting a little flour in there. There. Into the bowl it goes. And we're going to let that rise for 3 hours in a nice warm spot. So you want to wrap that with the cling film. Make sure it's tightly wrapped. And we can put some tea towels on top of it too. We want it to be nice and warm. An interesting thing happened while I was kneading. About the last minute or so, the dough felt extremely cold. I don't know if you guys noticed that. If you're kneading your dough, this dough in particular, it just felt like my hands were getting cold. Kind of weird, huh? Anyway, I'm going to put this probably in my oven with the oven light on, because that'll be a nice warm spot where it can rise for 3 hours. I just wanted to show you a little trick for cleanup. You see this? It's a little flat kind of spatula. I got this at the hardware store in, I think it was around where they have the paints and the spackle stuff. It works really well, you know? And it's not going to damage your counter if you want to get the dough up. And all the excess flour. I think it's so neat. I think this was $3 and there was a pack of 3 of them. So you don't have to go out and buy the special, you know, I think they call them dough spatulas. I feel like I'm just sweeping, sweeping the floor with a dustpan. And then what you can do is just put a little bit of water on your counter. And then you can scrape up any excess dough that's stuck to your counter. See, there's a few little bits of dough still there. I don't know if you can see that. But I wanted to share that tip with you. It makes cleanup so easy. Don't go away, my friends. After this very short word from my sponsors, we'll start shaping our baguettes. Now let's start shaping our baguettes. Let's check out the dough. It should have risen to the top of the bowl, and it has. Wonderful. I'm going to hold on to this cling film because I'm going to need it. Now, I know that my bowl itself, my glass bowl, weighs 1,000 grams, so I'm actually going to put this onto my kitchen scale because I want to divide the dough up into 4 equal pieces. You could eyeball it, but I prefer to do it this way. Okay. So I have a total of 2,000. So my dough weighs 1,000. So each piece should be about 250, something like that. It actually weighed 2,052, but I was ballparking it. So if I can get these divided into 4 equal pieces of about 250 grams, I think I'll be okay. Let me just pour out my dough here. It's sticky. And I'm just going to flour it a little bit. Just a little bit. Just so it doesn't stick everywhere. I probably should have done that first. No harm done. As Bob Ross the painter says, I made a happy little accident. Not a mistake, an accident. Okay. So, let me see if I can get this going here. I'm using my handy dandy little tool here, spackle tool. little spatulas work out very well. Okay. Now, how much does this weigh? 265, 283. Now, I'm not looking for exact measurements. I actually watched a pizza channel, a pizzaiolo from Italy. He was so good that he divided them all and they were all perfectly even. I don't think I can do that. 253 and 255. This one weighed 280 something, 286. So I could probably trim a little bit off this one. Now it's at 248 and just kind of give these two a little bit, and that'll be fine. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to shape these into the form of just a log. I want to pre-shape them and then let them rest a little bit. So we'll pre-shape our baguettes just into the form of a little log here. I am so looking forward to eating these. There we go. And I'm going to take my cling film, cover these up, and let them rest here on the counter for 20 minutes. While the baguette dough is resting, I'm going to prepare my couche. And what I want to do basically is just really flour it well so that the baguette dough does not stick to it as it's kind of shaping. And you know, you can really generously flour this. I moved my camera up a little bit so that you could see really well, because I was noticing that when I did part of the video introducing the baguette pans, that you couldn't really see the whole thing. So I adjusted things, so it should be better now. All right. Just make sure the whole thing gets floured. There we go. Now it's ready. Now the next step is to roll out our dough into the shape of a baguette and place each baguette on the floured couche. And I'm going to show you what I've done. Now I'm going to keep this cling film handy because the baguettes are still going to need to rest for 30 more minutes after that before we put them into the oven. So why don't I first roll them out? I'll put a few on the side because I want you to see my little setup here. Just flouring my counter up there to get these out of the way. And I want to show you what I'm doing for the couche, okay? Basically, we are going to be rolling this up into an accordion, kind of like this. And each baguette is going to rest inside the little dent, okay? And normally I would just shove this up against my counter because it needs something to kind of lean on so that it doesn't fall over. But for the purposes of this video, I want you to see what I'm doing. So I have this juice container here. I just wrapped it with cling film so that it doesn't get flour all over it, and that's going to help to keep it propped up, okay? So I just wanted to show you that. And basically I'm going to roll this to the length of my couche here, okay? So here I go, just rolling it out like Play-Doh. It's like you're making a breadstick, which is what this kind of is. It's a long breadstick. So there we go. That's the first one. I'll set that aside. I'm going to roll them all out first and then put them all on the couche together so they can sleep for another half hour. Allez coucher. the last one here. Okay, that works. So why don't I start putting them into the couche? Remember I said accordion style here? There we go, and the last one. Let's see if I can fit that in here. That works. I'm going to move everything over into the center there so you can see it. I don't want them too squished, but my couche is a small one. Yeah, I just want to have that propped up. There we go. So now we're going to cover these. Let me move them up so you can see the whole thing. We're going to cover them with that cling film and let them rest for another 30 minutes. While my baguettes are resting, I'm preheating my oven to 450 Fahrenheit, that's 230 Celsius or gas mark 8. And as you can see here, I've also placed a pan filled with hot water on the bottom of my oven. It's steaming hot, as you can see. And the reason we do that is because it does create steam as the baguettes are baking, and that's what helps the crust get really crunchy. Let's transfer our baguettes onto the baguette pans. Let me get rid of some of this stuff here so that we have some room. And I'm just going to move these over and bring my baguette pan here so you can see. And I'm not doing anything fancy, my friends. I'm just picking them up and plopping them in. And I'm kind of stretching them a little bit too. There we go. This is what it looks like here. All right, so now I'm going to take a sharp knife and I'm going to score my baguettes 4 times or 5 times each. My oven hasn't beeped yet, so I'm hoping that'll be ready soon so I can get these baked and eat them. Well, my oven just beeped, so I know it's ready to go. I'm going to put my baguettes into the oven and bake them for 30 to 35 minutes until they're light to golden brown. Look at these. My baguettes are ready. They were in the oven for 35 minutes. Now I have to let them cool a little bit before I can try them. So in the meantime, I wanted to mention something about freezing baguettes because these are best eaten the same day. They go stale very, very quickly. In my last video on baguettes, how to make home-baked French baguettes, I got lots of comments from people who were suggesting how to best freeze them so that they're nice and fresh and crunchy when you take them out of the freezer. So I'm going to be trying all sorts of different ways from the tips that people left in the comments. Thank you so much, my friends. And coming up soon, I will make a video on the best way to freeze home-baked baguettes. I hope you enjoyed this video, my friends, and if you did, please don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe for more home cooking, and feel free to share this recipe with anyone you might think will enjoy it. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye!